Envision a minuscule seed, so diminutive it could vanish into the crease of your palm, yet brimming with a protein density that surpasses even beef. This is a plant that not only endures but flourishes amidst scorching temperatures. Heat so intense it reduces our contemporary staple crops to barren dust. Drought holds no terror for it. It stubbornly retains its verdant life force even in landscapes where mighty rivers have long since dwindled to parched riverbeds. For an astonishing 5 millennia, this resilient crop served as the very lifeblood for thriving civilizations scattered across Earth's most unforgiving desert environments. Then, with an almost imperceptible flicker in the vast tapestry of human history, we eradicated it. This wasn't an unfortunate accident. It was a deliberate, conscious choice. We opted for less robust alternatives. We actively shunned it, even branded it as undesirable, effectively banishing it to the deepest shadows of agricultural memory. Yet, the earth possesses an enduring memory. Deep within the unyielding soil, something patiently endured. It hadn't perished. Rather, it had merely entered a long slumber. An ancient, watchful guardian, patiently awaiting its moment. This narrative unveils the forgotten saga of a crop we carelessly discarded. Ironically, just as the global community began to need its unique strengths most desperately. It's a tale of latent, almost forbidden power, a quiet revolution stirring beneath the surface, and the entrenched systems that relentlessly sought to suppress its very existence. Welcome to Farm Life Daily. Our story doesn't unfold within the sterile confines of a modern laboratory. Instead, its true genesis lies nestled within Mexico's sun-drenched Tehuacan Valley, an archaeological treasure trove dating back to 500 BCE. Within subterranean storage pits, long untouched by time, archaeologists unearthed seeds, remarkably intact and perfectly preserved across 2.5 millennia. However, the true genesis of this plant predates even that ancient discovery by a significant margin. A groundbreaking genetic analysis, published in 2021, unveiled an astonishing truth. This remarkable crop was meticulously domesticated a full 5,000 years ago, not through gradual evolution, but in a singular, purposeful act deep within the Sonoran Desert. The ancient peoples who first nurtured this crop may have lacked written language and never built sprawling empires, yet they harbored a profound form of wisdom, an understanding that, regrettably, our modern societies have systematically dismantled. In an unforgiving land where mere survival was a relentless, daily endeavor, these communities made a profound choice, one that seems utterly counterintuitive to contemporary agricultural paradigms. They prioritized the cultivation of the bean over the more commonly favored grain. This wasn't a sentimental preference, but a pragmatic decision born of dire necessity. This extraordinary plant is known as the Tepary bean, scientifically categorized as Phaseolus acutifolius. It is a botanical marvel, meticulously sculpted by millennia of relentless natural selection, honing its sole, paramount ability to not just exist, but to flourish in environments where virtually no other crop can endure. This genetic makeup is, in essence, an impregnable fortress. It synthesizes specialized amino sugars, a biochemical shield that safeguards its vital proteins from degradation, even when external temperatures violently surge to a scorching 118 degrees Fahrenheit. When the ravages of drought descend, its foliage exhibits a truly remarkable adaptation. Its leaves meticulously fold inward throughout the searing daylight hours to staunchly conserve precious moisture, unfurling only at night to embrace the cooler, less arid air. Furthermore, it possesses the invaluable capacity to fix nitrogen directly from the atmosphere, a natural process that actively revitalizes and restores vitality to exhausted, nutrient-depleted soil. From a nutritional standpoint, its merits are nothing short of extraordinary. A mere 100 grams of these beans can yield an impressive 25 grams of protein, a higher concentration by weight than beef itself. To the indigenous desert cultures, this plant was simply reverently referred to as the bean. However, their rich oral traditions unveil a far more profound narrative. They narrate that the shimmering band of the Milky Way is not composed of distant stars, but rather countless white Tepary beans, strewn across the vast expanse of the night sky, a celestial testament to both enduring abundance and hard-won survival. Over a millennium ago, the cultivation of Tepary beans was widespread across the arid landscapes now known as Arizona. Indigenous farmers skillfully sowed these beans within dry washes, natural depressions that would briefly swell with life-giving water during the seasonal monsoon rains. They even engineered remarkably simple, yet ingeniously effective, brush diversion systems designed to harness and direct the energy of sudden flash floods. Requiring just a single significant rainfall, the beans would swiftly germinate. And in a mere 60 days they reached full maturity. A bountiful harvest was assured with the occurrence of just 2 monsoon rains. Even in areas struggling with an annual rainfall of a meager 3 inches, the Tepary bean consistently yielded vital sustenance. By the 1920s, indigenous farmers were routinely harvesting a staggering annual yield exceeding 1.5 million pounds of Tepary beans, facilitating a thriving trade network that spanned the entirety of the Southwest, intricately linking diverse communities across deserts, plains, and mountains. This remarkable bean wasn't simply a food source. It served as the enduring bedrock for entire societies, providing crucial sustenance through periods of severe drought, widespread famine, and unrelenting extreme heat, all while simultaneously fostering the robust health of these communities. Prior to the pervasive introduction of processed foods, instances of type 2 diabetes were virtually unheard of among these indigenous populations. A traditional diet, anchored firmly around the Tepary bean, demonstrated an inherent ability to naturally stabilize blood sugar levels, promote healthy cholesterol profiles, and regulate digestion thanks to its abundant soluble fiber content. Subsequent modern research has since confirmed an even more astonishing attribute. Tepary beans possess naturally occurring protease inhibitors, compounds with the potential to actively suppress the proliferation of specific cancer cells. This was far beyond mere sustenance. It was potent preventative medicine, flourishing spontaneously and resiliently in the desert sands. So, how could a crop so inherently resilient, nutritionally rich, and utterly essential simply vanish from widespread cultivation? Its demise wasn't a natural occurrence. Rather, it was a direct consequence of prevailing ideologies, an obsession with control, and the pervasive influence of human-engineered systems. Commencing in the 1600s, colonial agricultural paradigms were systematically imposed, introducing foreign crops like wheat and barley, alongside European livestock. Indigenous farmers found themselves compelled to cultivate crops that intrinsically required extensive irrigation, asserted notions of private ownership, and fostered an inescapable dependency on external resources. The self-sufficient Tepary bean, which thrived autonomously without the need for artificial inputs or centralized control, was consequently branded as too wild, too untamed, and ultimately uncontrollable. Existing fields were either deliberately incinerated or repurposed for these new, imposed crops. Predictably, the newly introduced European crops repeatedly succumbed to drought conditions, even as the native Tepary beans stood ready, capable of sustaining populations and saving countless lives. Yet, against all odds, the resilient bean persisted. Its precious seeds remained dormant, nestled deep beneath the soil, patiently awaiting their moment. As the 20th century dawned, a new and powerful force emerged to complete its systematic eradication: agricultural mechanization. The burgeoning industrial agricultural model was inherently geared towards uniformity of growth and rapid harvesting. Tepary beans, however, ripened irregularly and demanded the meticulous touch of hand harvesting. Any delay in harvesting meant the mature pods would explosively shatter, dispersing their vital seeds across the very ground they grew on. This characteristic, a brilliant evolutionary strategy for natural propagation, proved to be an unmitigated disaster for mechanical harvesting. Meanwhile, substantial government subsidies were channeled overwhelmingly towards crops like corn, soy, and cotton varieties, meticulously engineered for industrial applications rather than direct human consumption. Consequently, by the 1950s, a cornerstone food that had reliably sustained entire civilizations for an astounding 5,000 years found itself teetering on the brink of extinction. Nevertheless, a handful of tenacious families steadfastly refused to allow this invaluable heritage to simply fade away. Precious seeds were meticulously safeguarded, stored discreetly within ancient clay jars, forgotten old trunks, and cherished, quiet memories passed down through generations. When devastating global droughts gripped the world in the 1970s, causing widespread failure of modern crops under relentless extreme heat, a new generation of researchers reluctantly turned their attention back to the desert. And there, defiantly thriving at a scorching 115 degrees Fahrenheit with astonishingly little water, was the indomitable Tepary bean. Rigorous field trials unequivocally validated what generations of desert farmers had intuitively understood all along. In stark contrast to soybeans, Tepary beans demanded a mere one-third of the water, exhibited innate resistance to pests, actively replenished crucial nitrogen in the soil, and remarkably yielded a comparable protein content. This wasn't some anachronistic relic from the past. It was, in fact, a living blueprint for unparalleled climate resilience. Yet, despite its undeniable virtues, the Tepary bean continued to encounter systemic resistance. Could not be proprietary, its genetic makeup unpatentable. It demanded no synthetic fertilizers or chemical pesticides. And crucially, it fostered no lucrative dependencies. Within an agricultural system meticulously constructed upon principles of profit maximization and centralized control, these very strengths rendered it effectively invisible. Despite compelling scientific research extolling its inherent strengths, the Tepary bean was discreetly, yet deliberately, relegated to the sidelines. The subsequent revival, however, didn't originate from the boardrooms of corporations, but rather from the grassroots efforts of dedicated communities. Farmers, with painstaking manual labor, began the arduous task of replanting ancestral varieties that had lain dormant, untouched by human hands, for centuries. They aptly described this profound act as planting the ancestors. Gradually, painstakingly, the venerable beans began their journey back into community kitchens, school gardens, and agricultural fields. Children, in a powerful act of cultural reclamation, learned not only how to cultivate, but also how to prepare the very same sustaining food that had faithfully carried their ancestors through epochs of unimaginable hardship. Today, as unsettling climate models project a potential collapse of up to 30% of global crop yields by the year 2050, the Tepary bean stands resilient, maintaining its verdant life force even where other, more fragile crops irrevocably falter. Forged in the crucible of intense heat and chronic scarcity, it astonishingly flourishes in the very environmental conditions that are increasingly shaping our collective future. Leading scientists now, with a tone of cautious optimism, are beginning to refer to it as a survival crop. Major international research centers are actively engaged in efforts to crossbreed its invaluable genetic traits into our broader global food systems. And various governments are now meticulously evaluating its potential for critical food security programs. Yet, for the indigenous communities who have steadfastly refused to forget its enduring legacy, the Tepary bean represents far more than a mere agricultural commodity. It embodies cherished memory, affirms their enduring identity, and stands as living proof that true resilience doesn't stem from domination over nature, but rather from a profound, respectful harmony with the land itself. As one revered elder eloquently articulated, we cultivate it because it retains the ancient wisdom of how to live and thrive, even when all else around it has forgotten. This narrative, therefore, is not a tale of rediscovery, but rather a profound call for recognition. The invaluable knowledge surrounding this crop was never truly lost. It was, quite simply, deliberately ignored. It was systematically buried by pervasive systems that consistently prioritized financial profit above human well-being, and absolute control above collaborative stewardship. And now, as the global community invests billions in a frantic search for innovative, drought-proof agricultural solutions, the profound answer has quietly resided, patiently waiting, in the desert's embrace all along. The very crop once scornfully dismissed as primitive and uncontrollable may, in fact, hold the essential key to humanity's long-term survival. All it humbly requests is that we look beyond the myopic pursuit of profit and genuinely perceive what has been vibrantly present all along. An unwavering resilience, fiercely blossoming in the heart of the desert sands. If this compelling narrative has deeply resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe to Farm Life Daily, enable your notifications, and most importantly, share this vital knowledge widely, ensuring that it can never again be consigned to oblivion.